What if one single person could actually change the course of human history forever? Imagine we're standing amidst the vast, sweeping desert sands of Arabia. It's over 1,400 years ago. It's a harsh environment, right? And honestly, a pretty harsh time in history. Yet from this exact landscape, a man was born whose message would fundamentally alter the trajectory of the world. We're talking about a figure whose teachings would eventually unite completely disparate nations, profoundly transform individual hearts, and go on to inspire literally billions of people across the globe. So today, in this explainer, we're going to dive into an amazing narrative of incredible resilience, profound wisdom, and absolutely unmatched mercy.
We're exploring the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And his story isn't just some dusty historical biography. It's really a profound masterclass in character. It's the incredible story of how absolute honesty, enduring patience, and ultimate forgiveness cemented him as one of the most influential figures in all of human history.
Section 1, Early Life and Character. Let's get right into it.
Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born in Makkah in the year 570 CE. But right from the start, his life was marked by profound loss. Even before he took his very first breath, his father, Abdullah, had already passed away. Then, at the tender age of 6, he suffered another devastating blow when he lost his mother, Amina. So he's an orphan in a society where tribal protection and family lineage were basically everything. You'd kind of expect that level of hardship to just break a person, right? But instead, it instilled in him this deep, lifelong empathy for the vulnerable, the poor, and the marginalized. Defying all the odds, he worked incredibly hard as a merchant. And by the age of 25, his impeccable reputation led him to marry Khadijah, who was a highly respected and really successful businesswoman.
Way before he ever claimed prophethood, his character was already completely legendary. The people of Makkah actually gave him 2 very distinct titles, Al-Sadiq, which means the truthful, and Al-Amin, the trustworthy. And this wasn't just some clever marketing slogan. It was genuinely how everyone in his society viewed him. Even the people who would later become his absolute fiercest enemies never once doubted his honesty. Khadijah, his wife, was deeply impressed by this incredibly noble character. Their marriage turned into this beautiful partnership of mutual respect, and she would actually become his very first, and honestly his greatest supporter, during the unimaginably difficult trials that were to come.
Section 2. The First Revelation. As he entered adulthood, this successful merchant started to feel a really deep, unsettling disconnect with the society around him. Makkah was this bustling trade hub, sure, but it was also a place totally plagued by deep corruption, stark inequality, and widespread idol worship. Muhammad, peace be upon him, found himself really troubled by all of this. Seeking peace, seeking some kind of clarity and reflection, he started to retreat away from the noise of the city. He'd climb the mountains near Makkah and spend days completely alone in the cave of Hira. It was this place of quiet isolation, especially during the month of Ramadan. He was basically searching for truth in a really fractured world. And it was right there, in that quiet, dark cave, that human history essentially pivoted. One night, a sudden, completely overwhelming presence appeared before him. It was the angel Jibril, or Gabriel. And the angel delivered a single profoundly heavy command from Allah. Read. Just imagine the shock, the sheer awe of that moment. Muhammad was frightened. He was an unlettered man. He replied that he couldn't read. But the command came again, bringing forth the very first magnificent verses of the Quran. At exactly 40 years old, an age we often associate with maturity and deep reflection, he was chosen by Allah to be his final messenger. And the thing is, this wasn't something he was out there seeking. It was a monumental, heavy responsibility placed upon a remarkably honest man who had simply been searching for meaning. His quiet life as a merchant was officially over. His life as a prophet had just begun. Section 3. The Call and Persecution. Now think about it. When you bring a message that challenges the absolute foundation of a corrupt society, you are going to face some incredibly fierce resistance. The message he began to share with the people of Mecca was radically simple, but it was completely disruptive to their status quo. He called on people to worship one God alone and to just abandon the hundreds of idols housed in the city. But it wasn't just about theology. It was literally a total social revolution. He demanded justice and kindness. He demanded honesty in trade. And absolutely crucially, he demanded compassion for the poor, the needy, and the enslaved. He was essentially looking right at the powerful elite and telling them they were no better than the poorest members of society in the eyes of God. As you might guess,
The elite leaders of Makkah did not take this well at all. They made vast amounts of money from the idol trade. And this brand new message of equality, it terrified them. They were so scared of losing their wealth and their grip on power. So they retaliated with brutal force. Early Muslims, many of whom were already the most vulnerable people in that society, faced severe persecution. They were mocked, boycotted, insulted, tortured, and some were even killed for simply saying God is one. But through all of this immense suffering, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, remained incredibly steadfast. He kept preaching patience and absolutely refused to meet their violence with violence.
Section 4. Migration to Medina.
After 13 agonizing years of this kind of persecution in Makkah, a divine command was given that would change everything. The Muslims were to leave their homes, leave their properties, leave all their wealth behind, and migrate to a city to the north called Yathrib, which would later be known as Medina. This incredible journey is called the Hijrah. And I really want to emphasize here that this wasn't just some desperate escape. No, this was the birth of a brand new society. In fact, the Islamic calendar literally begins with this exact event, because it was the moment Muslims transitioned from being a heavily persecuted minority to a unified, self-governing community. The contrast between the two cities is pretty stark. In Makkah, the reality was just danger, rejection, and survival. But over in Medina, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, wasn't just a spiritual guide anymore. He actually became a statesman, a judge, and this brilliant unifier. He drafted a constitution that brought together entirely different tribes, including the local Jewish community, creating a society that was built on mutual defense, justice, brotherhood, and peace. It's honestly an incredible historical study in leadership and statecraft, literally building a thriving community from the ground up. Section 5. Victory and Forgiveness. Now, those peaceful years in Medina, they weren't without their own massive threats. The leaders of Makkah weren't content to just let the Muslims live in peace. They actually launched multiple military campaigns trying to wipe Medina right off the map. So the Muslims were forced to defend themselves. But here's the thing. Even in the brutal, chaotic reality of ancient warfare, Prophet Muhammad's leadership was profoundly different. He fought with courage and wisdom, for sure, but he also instituted strictly humane rules of engagement. He explicitly forbade the harming of women, children, the elderly, and even the destruction of trees and property. His goal was never bloodshed or conquest. His goal was pure survival and the defense of religious freedom. And ultimately, it was this highly principled leadership that drew even more people to his message, gradually uniting the entire Arabian Peninsula. And that leads us to what is genuinely one of the most stunning moments in all of human history. Years after being driven out, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, returns to his home city of Makkah, accompanied by 10,000 followers. The city is essentially handed over without a single fight. He now stands right there before the very people who had tortured his friends, murdered his loved ones, and stolen everything he ever owned. He holds absolute, unchecked power to take revenge. It is literally the perfect setup for a brutal retaliation. But instead of punishment, he chooses absolute forgiveness. Standing there at the Kaaba, looking out at his former oppressors who were trembling, fully expecting the worst, he delivered a decree that still echoes through history today. He simply said, "Go, for you are free." A general amnesty, a total pardon. It was an act of mercy so profound and so unexpected that it completely melted the hearts of his enemies. By conquering his own desire for vengeance, he truly conquered Mecca, entirely bloodlessly. Over 14 centuries later, this life is definitely not just a chapter in some old history book. It is a living, breathing blueprint for nearly 2 billion people today. From an orphan child to an honest merchant, to a persecuted preacher, to a visionary statesman who ultimately chose forgiveness over revenge. How does a legacy built so firmly on unshakable justice and profound mercy continue to shape the world you and I live in today? It's a pretty incredible journey to reflect on. Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me today.